What's going on, everyone? So I wanted to talk about a couple Laker targets. One that we missed out on, and then two that I really want, kind of their first performance. Right off the bat, the one that we missed out on is Dejounte Murray. And what a blow for the New Orleans Pelicans, right? Dejounte Murray ended up fracturing his hand. He is out indefinitely as they resolve that. I mean, he's going to miss most of the season, maybe even all the season, depending on how quickly he can progress, how significant the fracture is. It's a real blow for a Pelicans team that, they were trying to. They have holes, obviously, at the center position. Brandon Ingram, what's going to happen with him? Although he was great for them in that game. Brandon Ingram is definitely an option I'd at least keep your eye on. I don't know if the Lakers would go and get him. I've talked about Brandon Ingram before because a couple things about Brandon Ingram. One, he is an expiring contract, and he's not getting $40 million from anyone. So, do you kind of use him as worst case a salary dump, and now you can kind of retool next offseason? Best case scenario, it works, and now maybe you're signing him to $25 million a year or $30 million a year. That is something that you could definitely see potentially be a possibility. I don't hate the idea of Brandon Ingram. A little concerned about his fit alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but he does give you that 3-and-D wing. He does give you a guy that can really just play both sides of the basketball when he's locked in and engaged. Just gives you some size and length out there, and a guy that can just go get a bucket for you. But you look at him, which it's funny because played against Zach Lavine, who we're going to touch on here in a moment. But Brandon Ingram had 33 points in 31 minutes, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, was 13 of 23 from the floor, 3 of 5 from 3, had 1 block, 2 steals, 3 turnovers, and was a plus 18 in that game, which, again, kind of keeping an eye, monitoring various wings. He's a guy that's definitely on the list. And, again, it's kind of one of those things with Ingram. Do you take the chance, take the risks, or do you kind of just be patient, wait, and see how things play out? I wouldn't be if tomorrow we got news that we traded for Brandon Ingram, I would be stoked. I would be excited. But is he the best option for the Lakers? I don't know. That's something we're going to have to see and continue to see Brandon Ingram put together. More than anything, it's his injury history, right? Can he stay healthy? All right. Next guy I want to talk about is Zach Lavine. One, anytime I have a chance to talk about Zach Lavine, talk about Zach Lavine. Two, he's a guy that Lakers repeatedly are in the news as hey, keep an eye on. They're probably going to end up getting him at some point. And there's a lot of concern that I see of people that are his trade value is being raised. His trade value is being raised. I don't really buy that, right? Everyone knows what he can do, right? Everything, him dropping. So you look at the first game, right? 27 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 10 of 17 from the floor, 5 of 8 from three-point range. Don't worry, we're going to talk about the turnovers here in a moment, but which he had 7 of. But that, everyone knows he can do that. He hasn't done anything that's oh wow, right? It's not his ability on the basketball court that people have concerns with. It's his contract, and is he worth that amount of money? And 2, his injury history, right? So people are oh, Zach Lavine, man, he's playing so great. It's gonna be a first. No, it's not. It literally changed. Zach Lavine could average 35 a game from now until the trade deadline, and it wouldn't impact his game whatsoever. Now, if a team deals with an injury, say the Pelicans end up losing another Zion do they go and try to go get somebody like Zach Lavine just for the scoring? But right, if an injury happens somewhere, could that maybe change things for Lavine? Sure. But as of right now, who's lining up for Zach Lavine? Right? The only reason the Lakers want Zach Lavine, and the only reason it makes sense for the Lakers, is because the Lakers need a guy like Zach Lavine. All the other teams have him. What team needs a guy like Zach Lavine? Right? Look at all the teams in the Western Conference. Right? The Kings got De'Aaron Fox and now DeMar DeRozan with Malik Monk. You got Jamal Murray on the Nuggets, right? You got SGA. You got Anthony Edwards. You got Luka and Kyrie, right? All these teams already have a guy. You even look East, right? Paul George, Tyrese Maxey. You got, Jalen Brunson. You got, right? Donovan Mitchell, right? these teams don't need that. Like, maybe a bad team, sure, but like all the teams that would maybe be interested in looking at Zach Lavine as like, hey, he might make sense, they already have a guy like Zach Lavine. So unless something happens where a team's like, do we just pack it in and do we take a shot with Zach Lavine and figure it out after? Like, I don't think there's anything that Zach Lavine or Chicago can do that raises his trade. That teams are going to be like, wow, I didn't know Zach Lavine can score 27. I never would have thought that. The guy dropped 50 last year, and he only played 25 games, right? Like, we know what he can do on the basketball court, right? It's why he makes sense for the Lakers. So his trade value, I don't really see him. People are pointing at the 7 turnovers and just like completely ignoring all of the other stuff, such as, the rebounding, the assists, his scoring, which is what we'd be looking for more than anything, is his scoring ability, his athleticism, right? Him helping on the glass, right? Those type of things. Again, he's a guy that give you a 25, 5, and 5, right? That's what the Lakers need. One, the Lakers aren't going to be asking him to be the primary ball handler. And even if he does, he's not going to have to be making plays out there. He's just going to be the initiator. So you're just looking for him to bring the ball up and make a play, or get into the initiative. You're not asking him to be out here Magic Johnson, run like Chicago's running him as if he's like a point guard at times, right? Like, and is he going to average 7 turnovers a game? Probably not, right? Like, he's not a guy that is like super turnover prone, and his role is going to be entirely different with the Lakers. Like, what we're seeing with him in Chicago and the way Chicago's operating him, we're not going to run him that way. We're going to be using him for his greatest strength, which is just being a bucket getter. He's going to be in all kinds of actions, coming out of pin downs, being a spot up 3-and-D shooter or a 3-point shooter, him getting ahead of steam towards the rim, as the roll man, little dump passes and stuff where he can utilize his athleticism, or just, here you go, Zach Lavine, go get a bucket. And you just hand him the basketball and everyone just gets out of his way and he goes and drops 30. Like, that's what we're looking for him to do, right? Play some defense, get after it, be engaged, help us grab a couple boards, make the occasional assist. I'm not worried about the 7 turnovers. Like, guys have it all. D'Lo's had games like that. LeBron has games like that. Luka has games like that regularly because he's so high usage, right? Like, high usage guys are going to have turnovers. Zach Lavine has been high usage for them. We're going to utilize him completely different. I'm not really worried about those turnover things. But, again, Dejounte Murray, you look at him, in hindsight, it's like, we could be without Dejounte Murray. It sucks. You never want to see things happen with injuries. I still, if I'm being honest, would have traded for Dejounte Murray. Also, you never know. Like, different timelines, maybe he doesn't get hurt. But, it is definitely something that's like, oh, hey, maybe the Lakers, it worked out where they just, because they can't really afford, like, if we went and traded for Dejounte Murray, we wouldn't be able to really afford him missing half, if not the entirety of the season. Brandon Ingram, kind of iffy on. Like I said, I wouldn't hate it, but it's not like an ideal situation in my opinion. It's not somebody that I'm like lining up like, hey, who we need to get? We need to go get Brandon Ingram. But last guy I kind of wanted to talk about in this video, and, I want to keep monitoring guys and, kind of having these like updated videos. But guy that I want to talk about is Walker Kessler. He's the guy that is ruining his value for us, right? Because he's playing great. Now, you want to talk about, Zach Lavine raises trade value. No, you should be talking about Walker Kessler, because Walker Kessler in his opening night went toe-to-toe and was just dominating the Grizzlies, especially when Zach Edey got injured, fouled out. Words. Sorry, I'm thinking Dejounte Murray and all that stuff. But you ended up seeing Zach Edey foul out in like 15 minutes of action. But Walker Kessler in 30 minutes had 16 points, 14 rebounds, 1 assist, went 6 of 7 from the field, 4 of 5 from the foul line, dished out 5 blocks, 1 steal, 2 turnovers, and 2 fouls. He was a +4. We need that badly. Go get Zach Lavine. Go get Walker Kessler. I don't care. Get those 2 guys. Let's go win a championship. Seriously. You give me another double-double that can get you 5 blocks a game or 3 blocks. His like per 36 is like 5 blocks. But let's say 2.5. 2.5 blocks a game. Get you 10 points, 10 rebounds. Dish out a handful of assists. slotted alongside Anthony Davis, and then you also bring in an absolute bucket getter that can go average 30 if you want him to, and Zach Lavine, especially with J.J. Redick and this type of offense we're running. Like, Zach Lavine would just... what we saw against Minnesota, having Zach Lavine... Imagine Zach Lavine instead of D'Angelo Russell right now. Right? Like, stop. Like, that would be ridiculous. So, I still think Zach Lavine, Walker Kessler are your two plays. Go get Zach Lavine. You don't have to give up any assets. If you want to wait a handful of games, make sure he's healthy, make sure he's good, fine. But go get Zach Lavine. Then you have 2 firsts. Go use that first and go get Walker Kessler. And let's go win a championship. You'd still be 8 to 9 deep. You're still fine, right? Like, you still have the same roster you have right now. It's just like instead of Rui and D'Lo, you have Zach Lavine, and then you also got Walker Kessler instead of like Jalen Richfield, right? Like, you're basically swapping Gabe Vincent, Gabe Vincent, D'Angelo Russell, and Rui Hachimura for Zach Lavine, who I think will give you the same type of offensive production consistently as Rui and D'Lo, and then you get a guy on Walker Kessler, which is a need in general, and he's a guy for now in the future. Like, let's go do that, and let's go win a championship. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Best question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? What do you think of these guys? Is there any other guys you want me to kind of highlight and go over? Did you like this? Again, kind of didn't really do this last season, but I was like, hey, you know what? Like, let's talk about like the targets that the Lakers are kind of, monitor, kind of keep a running timeline. Do you like this idea? Do you not? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.